In 1998, it was the time when Mulan was released. It's about a girl from China who isn't really good at getting a husband, so she goes disguising herself as a man to replace her old father in the Chinese army. With the help of her guardian, Mushu, she goes out to battle against the Huns. The story is based on an old Chinese tale called The Legend of Hua Mulan that has been passed on for over around 2,000 years. Rumor has it that Mulan was an actual person. The film was credited as the first of the 3 films to be primarily produced in the animation studio at Hollywood Studios in Orlando, Florida. The other 2 were Lilo and Stitch and Brother Bear. It was supposed to be a straight-to-video short called China Doll that was about a miserable Chinese woman who fell in love with a British guy. Then, Disney consultant Robert Sanssouci suggested making a movie of the Chinese poem The Song of Femme Mulan, and Disney decided to combine the 2 projects. The artistic approach of the film is kinda like the yin-yang concept. The artistic supervisors spent 3 weeks in China sketching, photographing, and painting with watercolor. To create the large crowds of people, the production team have to use several softwares for different kinds of crowd. There's Attila for making the 2,000 Huns in the Huns attack sequence, Dynasty for the crowds in the final battle sequence, and Pixar's RenderMan to render them, and Full Plane for adding depth to the flat 2D paintings. When it landed into theaters, it really did well. It now has an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made more money than Disney's last 2 films. But not as much to pass as what the Disney films of the early 90s did. The film was credited to begin the career of singer Christina Aguilera when she released her rendition of Reflection. Both the original and her version were so well received, it landed her a recording contract with RCA Records. In 1999, Disney had released Tarzan, based on the story of Edgar Rice Burton's Tarzan of the Apes. It's about a guy who was raised by gorillas, had his first encounter with a human called Jane, the daughter of an explorer. Now Tarzan has to choose to either start a new life with Jane or stay with his gorilla family. The Disney animators actually hired a professor of anatomy to talk about how are they going to draw Tarzan's muscles. He would lay the correct type of muscles over their drawings to help show them how to depict a man at the peak of his physical skills. One of the main reasons why animation was chosen as the perfect way to execute a Tarzan story was because the character is so animal-like, it would have been nearly impossible to do those effects in live action. Ironically, this is the only major motion picture of an animated movie of Tarzan. To check how Tarzan's body would move while sliding down a log, the animators based his movements on pro skateboarder Tony Hawk while on his skateboard. This film actually made Rosie O'Donnell's dream come true, because she always wanted to voice a character in a Disney animated movie. To make the 3D backgrounds, the team developed a 3D painting technique called Deep Canvas. This technique would later on be used in later Disney films, like Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet. It's to allow the artist to produce a CGI background that looks like a traditional painting. The creators would later on get a Technical Achievement Award from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science. When it was released, it did pretty much like Mulan. The critics really enjoyed it, and it earned around $450 million worldwide. That's very good, since this is the most expensive Disney film to make, with a budget of $150 million. Sadly, this would conclude the Disney Renaissance. But don't leave now! I still got more films to talk about. Like this one, Fantasia 2000. Today, this is the last package film that Disney released to date. Going back to 1940, the original Fantasia was supposed to have some new segments, along with the old segments, every time it would be re-released. The idea had never happened because of the box office failure, and they lost the European market due to World War II. The production team decided that to make the tradition appear in their film, they added the most popular segment of the original, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. For the live introductions, they brought in celebrities including Steve Martin, Bette Midler, James Earl Jones, Penn and Teller, Itzhak Perlman, Quincy Jones, and Angela Lansbury. The new segments are as follows: Beethoven's Symphony No. 5 in C minor I Allegro con brio, where there's a bunch of triangular bats and butterflies going around a place with light, clouds, and water. It was actually the last segment that the team did in production. Next is Pines of Rome, that features a family of flying humpback whales. Yeah, don't ask why, just sit down and watch the pretty whales. Then it's Rhapsody in Blue, where we see some people bursting through Metropolis in New York City during the 30s. It's the longest out of all the segments of this film, with a running time of 12 minutes. It was drawn in the style of Alfred Hirschfeld's famous cartoons of the era. It was supposed to be its own independent film, but it replaced the Nutcracker Suite from the original Fantasia. The hotel in this segment was called the Goldberg Hotel, named after the directors of it, Eric and Susan Goldberg. On to the next segment is the Steadfast Tin Soldier in the music of Piano Concerto No. 2 in F minor I Allegro, based on the story of Hans Christian Andersen. It was the first time that the characters were all computer animated. It was supposed to be in the original Fantasia, but the crew at the time didn't know which song to put in. After that, it's my personal favorite out of all the Fantasia segments, the Carnival of the Animals finale. It's about a bunch of flamingos who tries to stop this one flamingo because he keeps playing with his yo-yo a lot. The director, Eric Goldberg, took him 9 months to do it because he animated the whole thing by himself. Next is Pomp of Circumstance, Marches 1, 2, 3, and 4, where it tells the story of Noah's Ark with Donald Duck as Noah's first mate. In the Ark, we can see some Disney characters that were included, like Frank the Lizard from The Rescuers Down Under, and even Mickey and Minnie. Finally, it's Firebird Suite 1919 version, where a firebird destroys an entire forest, but then the entire thing was reborn by a sprite, the creature, and an elk. The animation was based on the 1980s eruption at Mount St. Helens. It took 9 years to make the entire film, and it was finally released on the stroke of midnight on December 1st, 1999, making this the first film to be released in the new millennium. It was also the first film to be presented on IMAX. It earned some good reviews since it now has an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it seems that it didn't earn as much money as they did before, with only more than $90 million in the box office. Later on, in the same year, they had released Dinosaur. It's about the life of Aldar, an iguanodon that was raised by a clan of lemurs, and his survival from a meteor shower. The film is like no other film that Disney created. It blends digitally enhanced live-action photography, special effects wizardry, and computer-generated characters. Originally, this film was supposed to have no dialogue at all, just the voice of a narrator like a documentary so it can be different than Don Bluth's The Land Before Time. But no! Mr. Eisner here insisted to have dialogue so it can be more commercially viable. Pop singer Kate Bush wrote a song for the film, but it didn't appear when it was released. Bush's fan site said that Disney wanted her to rewrite it, but she refused, while Disney said that they removed it because during a preview, the audience didn't respond well to the song. There's an attraction at Animal Kingdom in Walt Disney World that ties in with the movie that's called, well, Dinosaur. But it was meant to be called Countdown to Extinction. It was supposed to open at the same time as the film, but due to the technology that was needed to make the movie, It opened 18 months before the movie was released. On its release on May 19th, 2000, it earned great amounts of money, with almost $350 million worldwide, but the critics didn't enjoy it as much as the other Disney films. Roger Ebert gave the film 3 out of 4 stars, saying that he loved the visuals, but he didn't like the choice of making the animals talk. Thanks, Mike! Way to think with your wallet!